The global market in carbon trading tripled last year to $30 billion according to the World Bank. And for Australia, that's even without a carbon trading scheme in place. The market is growing rapidly, and a lack of regulation has opened the way for so-called carbon cowboys taking advantage of consumers with a conscience. Emissions reduction company Carbon Planet has just become a member of the Chicago Climate Exchange and is leading the push for an international association to keep control of the retail industry in carbon credits. Caught up recently with the company's CEO, Dave Sagg, and began by asking him just how fast the market's growing.
By 2010, it's going to be somewhere in the sort of $1 trillion range. This is the voluntary carbon market, not even talking about the compliance carbon market, which is a whole. You know, the voluntary market is growing to the size that the carbon market, the compliance market, sort of is now, but they're both growing insanely fast. I think anyone really trying to predict where it's going to end up. I mean, carbon's becoming a new currency, essentially. You know, there's exchanges springing up, there's futures markets in carbon springing up, there's all sorts of, you know, financial instruments coming off the carbon economy.
And why have we seen such huge growth now?
Before, it was free to dump carbon into the atmosphere, and now there's a price attached to it. And as more and more countries around the world kind of come into line, whether they be Kyoto countries or even like Australia now is talking about a national emissions trading scheme. You know, everyone's basically talking the same language, which was impossible 10 years ago. And that's put a price on carbon, and that therefore has created, you know, the money guys have moved in.
So where does Carbon Planet fit in the scheme of all that?
But basically, customers come to us because they want to understand what their carbon footprint is. So we have teams of engineers and scientists around the world that analyse businesses' carbon footprints. They come to us because they want to reduce their carbon footprint. So once we've done the analysis, we then do the reduction strategies. They come to us because they want to buy carbon credits. They come to us because they might have a block of land out in the middle of the bush somewhere that they think they can generate carbon credits. So they come to us, and our consultants help them, either help them or basically explain why they can't generate carbon credits. Companies come to us because they have they've generated a whole lot of carbon credits and they don't know what to do with them or how to sell them, or, you know, so we function as a brokerage.
So why are people doing it? Why are they interested? Is it good PR and is it good business sense?
The smaller businesses come to us because they see an easy PR win. Like your local vet surgery comes to us, offsets their stuff. I mean, I'm thinking of one in particular. A vet surgery came to us. We did an audit and offset about 80 tonnes of CO2. Found a bunch of changes. They were importing drugs from Germany that they could have got from Victoria, and so by cutting those carbon miles down, we've reduced their footprint. Switching their lights over to low energy lights, that kind of thing. But what they found, as well as, you know, they got about probably $4 grand worth of free advertising in the local newspaper, was their staff have really taken this to heart. And so now their staff have introduced off their own bat sort of recycling programs and this and that and the other, and their staff retention has gone right up. Whereas before, it was quite typical for them to turn over staff quite quickly. So that's on a very small scale. On a larger scale, which is coming from the top, from the CEOs. And the CEOs, there's a lot of frustration at the senior level with the inaction of, especially in Australia, of the federal government to actually address this in a timely manner.
There is that sense of a disorganisation about the whole thing. A lot of people say that really there does need to be a bit more regulation and a bit more structure.
It needs structure and certainty is what it needs, and that means an actual cap, you know, stated emissions caps, targets, that kind of thing, reduction targets, and then let the market work out the most efficient way of solving these problems. But you need to, you know, you can't have a cap and trade system without cap.
So who needs to step in? Is it government? Do they need to intervene?
The federal government now is acting. You're starting to see the wheels turning now. You know, I'm not convinced the federal government are acting sincerely, but we'll see. You know, I don't think really, at the political level, I don't think anyone's acting sincerely. I think there's a lot of opportunistic behaviour going on. I mean, look to the British government if you want to see real progress. I mean, the Climate Change Act that just came out, you know, all the stuff. You walk around London, you can't avoid the whole issue there. It's very big. Walk around Seoul in Korea and you see huge signs on the sides of billboards saying stop CO2 and this kind of stuff. They're taking it much more seriously than we are.
Is it vital for Australia to be part of a world carbon trading market?
Of course we do. We're part of the world's economy. You know, if you're not part, you know, if you're not part of the world's economy, how can you be, you know, expect to get any of the benefit? I mean, there are benefits to being part of this global trading system. You know, I mean, people only seem to think about it in terms of the costs that it's going to bring upon our society, but the advantages are for, you know, especially for farmers and especially for people who can generate carbon credits, is there's a global market for their products, which there isn't right now. There's very much a domestic market. Australian carbon credits like NGACs and that kind of thing. I mean, we sell Australian carbon credits internationally to individuals who aren't bound by any Kyoto requirements, but businesses won't touch them. Not, you know, not internationally. We have to buy and sell credits on the international exchanges for that.
Carbon Planet's just joined the Chicago Climate Exchange. What's the significance of that?
Well, the CCX is it's pretty much that, and it owns the European Climate Exchange, which is based in London. Between them, they are the world carbon market, pretty much. There's a handful of other carbon exchanges or climate exchanges, but you know, they're the big ones. So if you're going to do anything serious in the international scheme, you have to be a participant in these two big exchanges. And the CCX is interesting because it's based in the States, and the States is not a Kyoto ratifying country either, but they're still dealing in all of the Kyoto standard credits and all of the other kinds of credits that are emerging out of the US economy as well, because all the different US states have their own carbon trading schemes, and it's quite fragmented there, but it's coalescing, but everything's on hold until, you know, the election next year in the States.
Do you see that there will come a time when offsetting and reducing emissions is part of every business plan?
Well, I mean, in the UK now, pretty much actually understanding, like getting a carbon emissions audit, almost law. The Climate Change Act requires most businesses now to go and get their carbon footprint analysed. Good for us. And I'd like to see, obviously, the same laws rolled out worldwide. I mean, as we look forward, I mean, if you look at the carbon market now, most of our customers are in the voluntary space. They're people who come to us because, you know, it's the right thing to do. The next phase in that is the business phase, where people come to us because they can see they can make money out of what we do. And we have a few customers who are making quite good money out of the services we provide for them. But the real joy is in the final stage, which is the compliance or virtual compliance, where all the big players have to, either because their shareholders demand it, legislation demands it, or, you know, their peers demand it.
And how far off is that?
Sooner than you think. And that then, because ultimately the money people pay for carbon credits funds either reforestation, carbon sequestration projects, or funds new technology, essentially, to reduce our energy footprint and reduce our carbon footprint. And that's what we need. I mean, no one wants to give up hot showers. People, you know, people don't want to give up driving, but people, I'm sure, aren't going to mind if they can drive from point A to point B without causing any environmental damage. People don't want to cause environmental damage. People don't go out of their way to cause environmental damage. You know, anyone doing that would be a sociopath. So given the opportunity, people do make the right decision, but it's not ingrained enough in our consciousness yet to sort of go, oh, actually, driving my kids to school is bad. You know, walking is good. Riding a bike is good, that kind of thing.
Dave Sagg, thanks for your time.